The million dollar question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the million dollar answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. Hey guys, it's Chris Waters. Welcome to CEO Secrets. I'm excited to have a special guest on today, David Hill, who is a national trainer and expert on telephone prospecting. David, welcome to CEO Secrets.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So I know you and I were just speaking. You have a fantastic book out there called The Sales Playbook, and you're coming out with a new edition of your book, Sales Playbook. I'm kind of curious, what are the things that have changed in the sales world between the time since you wrote the first edition of your book, The Sales Playbook?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it was released in 2014. So believe it or not, technology has changed a ton between 2014 and today. And I think the difference now is we're still, staying true to the prospecting and being, belly to belly and on the phones and in touch with people that way, but we're incorporating a lot more tech into it. Tech, when I say tech, I mean, how do you use the same prospecting methods, but with text messages, with emails, with social media, with voice drops, all kinds of different things we're adding to the next write of the book. So it's just if you can't just pick up the phone anymore, and that's the only thing. You need a combination of a lot of things, and yeah, social media is a big part of it now too. So.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what does the combination look like, in your opinion, in terms of the sequence in which you engage with a prospective lead and the mediums you use? Like, what does that sequence look like with the various mediums?
Well, I mean, it depends on the medium, right? It depends on the person. Like, I had recently got Gary Vee on my podcast, and that was a whole process of about a year of, going to two of his events and meeting him, paying a lot of money to be in a VIP section, getting into a book signing with him so I could meet him in person, then following up via email, getting in touch with the people that are close to him and just bugging them all the time, emailing him through social media, buying his book pre-order. So just a lot of, I'm just always popping up everywhere, right? It's like that. With that, it depends on the medium, right? And for example, today, there's a home that came off the market. I still do some prospecting here and there. I actually, a friend of mine reached out to me this morning. He's like, "Hey, you want to call some expireds?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So we jumped on a Zoom call together and we started calling expireds. And there was one property that came up in a neighborhood that, I do a lot of business in, and I couldn't get the phone number. So I actually went on LinkedIn, and I have a LinkedIn, forget what it's called, but it's a paid account. So I get a certain amount of people's email addresses. I found her on LinkedIn, shot her an email. She responded back. So now we're in an email dialogue through LinkedIn. I don't know how many other realtors did that. I mean, maybe a few did, maybe a few didn't, but I know her phone number didn't show up, and now I'm in contact with her through LinkedIn. So again, I wouldn't say there's one model, Chris, for everything. I think you got to sometimes be creative, and it's more than just picking up the phone now. I guess that's my point.
Do you think you could hire a virtual assistant that, for example, takes a list of prospects and, uses social media and other channels to try to reach out to them and make that a systematic process using like a, sales development rep or a virtual assistant?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see why not. I think it's a good idea.
Let me back up for a minute. I want to talk more about Gary Vee. So I really want to dive deep on this. So
sure.
There's a lot of people that see, guys interviewing these high profile celebrities, if you will, and they're like, how on earth did they get FaceTime with that person? So you said you paid to go to 2 Gary Vee events. What did you spend on those events?
The first event, it was around a $2,500 ticket. We had, front row seating. It was in New York, in Manhattan. Went out, it was awesome. It was an amazing experience. It wasn't just Gary Vee. Richard Branson was the keynote speaker.
What was the event called?
Oh God. I think it was Synergy. I'm pretty sure it was called Synergy. It was a Synergy worldwide event, I believe. I'm not 100. It's been a couple years now, but it was an amazing event. You had Richard Branson, a bunch of other really, really high level people. It was a 2-day event. So I got VIP tickets, which got me into some rooms. It got me a book signing and some other things. So I met Gary. At least, I don't know. He may or may not have remembered me, but I basically went up and handed him my book on stage at that event. And then I saw him again at the book signing, and he was like, dude, you're nuts. Like, and anyway, so now there was a little bit of a connection, right? So then we left.
So hold on, slow down. Let's slow down. So, okay. So first off, you're at the event, you're on the front row, you pay for VIP tickets, you hand him your book while you're on stage. And then after the event, he's doing a book signing, and you go up to him again, and I'm assuming you get the book signed. Your own, get his book signed.
His
right?
book, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And so that was like your first, time meeting with him. And that's how you got the seed planted, if you will. And then what was the subsequent event after that?
His guy is his top assistant, or whatever you want to call him. His go-to guy. His name's Ryan. So I had gotten Ryan's contact information, because when I met him at the book signing, he said, Gary, can I get you on my podcast? And he said, yeah, sure. So anyway, I got his guy's contact info, and then they never, they wouldn't respond to me. So I kept emailing.
What's Ryan's role in the company? Is he like an assistant to Gary?
Yeah, he's just, an assistant. I don't even know if he's in that role anymore. We're going back, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. But he was kind of Gary's, the guy that kind of handled everything for him at that time. Maybe his main assistant, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what his exact role was, but he was the guy. If you wanted to get to Gary, you typically had to go through him if you couldn't get Gary directly. So, I was emailing him. He wasn't responding. So anyway, long story short, their next event came up. It was called Agent 2021. This was out in Miami. Tom Ferry was actually... Tom Ferry was one of the big keynote speakers. So I called his sales team, and I had said to them, I said, listen, how much are the VIP tickets? They said it was $2,500. I said, okay, and then there was like an extra $1,500 to be in this filming of the Gary V Experience show. So I said, well, how many VIP tickets do I need to sell in order for me to get a free ticket to the Gary V Experience? She said, get me 2 more ticket sales and we'll get you in. So I said, all right, fine. So I found 2 more people that wanted to go with me. We all bought $2,500 tickets. We went down to Miami, and I got into the VIP filming of Gary's show, and it was awesome. It was Ryan Seahart. Is that his name? Ryan Seahart? The real estate guy? Sirhan. Sorry. Yeah. Ryan Sirhan. I should probably know that. My bad. But Ryan was being interviewed, and I was in the audience, and you're going to go back and listen to the episode, and Gary and I and Ryan ended up getting in this whole interaction and in the episode. So I ended up getting in there. And then after, there was another VIP, like a book signing. So this time I saw Gary again, and now he knew, because I just had this engagement with him on the show. I'm like, Gary, dude, what do I need to do to get you on my podcast? And he looked at Ryan. He said, Ryan, make it happen. So again, now I'm back to this Ryan guy. And anyway, I go back. I'm like, okay, this is a lock now. Ryan connects me with another person that handles like logistical stuff for them. So I've got a date set, and this is all on my podcast. I believe it's episode, it might be episode 107. It's one of my podcast episodes that goes through this whole process. But anyway, I finally get a date with Gary to be on the podcast, and I call in and he doesn't show up. Long story short, he doesn't show up. Something came up. So I waited like 45 minutes, and finally I'm just like, I'm done. So I hung up. I kept texting Ryan. Emailing. He apologized. And then he said, we'll get back to you with a new date. I never heard anything. So I finally just said, you know what, I'm done. Like, whatever. I texted Gary and I was like, hey, listen, I appreciate, or emailed Gary through, he really checks his DMs. Like if you want to get him, the best way is through like either Instagram or he does a lot with LinkedIn now. And I was just like, listen, I appreciate everything, and I know you're a man of your word. You said you were going to be on the show. Obviously we weren't able to make it happen, but hey, maybe it wasn't meant to be. So I wish you the best. And then the next day I got an email from the girl again and said, hey, can you make this work for tomorrow? And it was a Thursday, and legitimately it was like, can you make tomorrow work? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll make it work. I moved around my schedule, and bang, Gary was right there, and we got him on the show. It was like a 15-20 minute interview, and it was awesome. And there's a lot of other things in between, but I mean, that's the gist of it.
So two things. I have two questions. One, is there a hack or a shorter way to get in front of like high profile, celebrities, or thought leaders of that nature? Do you think there's after everything you went through, do you think there's a shorter path? Is there some kind of hack, if you will, to getting folks like that? Or is it just, I don't know,
maybe not for me. I guess it depends, right? I mean, I guess if you're buying, if you're in his mastermind groups that are paying $10,000 for here, I guess maybe you could buy your way into it faster. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, for me, I went about it I took my route, which worked great for me, because after I got Gary on the show, then I started getting a lot more celebrity guests like him. And then once you have someone like him on the show, you can market that, you can promote that, which helps you get guests.
Let me ask you something, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way. So I happened to look up your YouTube channel, right? And like,
sure,
you have a your first video titled Gary V on your YouTube page, and it's only had 176 views, and then your total subscriber base is just over 1,200, almost 1,300 subscribers. And so, I mean, mine is even worse. Mine's even more atrocious. And
I thought I changed it actually to get to Grant Cardone's video. Should be the premiere video now, which has about not a ton, maybe 600 views.
I guess my point is like why is it, even if you get a celebrity or high profile individual on your podcast, like what is it, you would think you would get a lot more views, right? Like you'd get like 100,000 views, 200,000 views, 300,000 views. Like, what do you think is, preventing you from, getting get the viral like effect and like, getting crazy views and your subscriber base, like, skyrocketing from 1,500 to 50,000?
Yeah. Well, honestly, because I wasn't focusing on YouTube at the time, I was driving traffic to Libsyn, not YouTube. So if you look at my podcast subscription, we get about 10,000 downloads a month. Mm-hmm. And Gary V's episode has I think 30 or 40,000 downloads itself. But if you look at my YouTube channel, then I just wasn't driving traffic to YouTube back at that particular time.
What do you think's more important? YouTube, the podcast? Like, if you're somebody that's like a national sales trainer and you're trying to get recognition and things like that, what do you think is the preferred channel?
It's a good question. I think all of them are, Chris, now. I just, in the past, I wasn't focusing on YouTube. I was focusing more on using my podcast as a way to kind of get my book out there, create awareness on my book. And I hadn't put the effort into growing my YouTube listenership and growing my YouTube channel. Like I have some videos on my YouTube channel, which are ridiculous. Like me making cold calls to expired sellers that have 25,000 views. I mean, you can look them up, but that, so that is, it just wasn't something that was top of mind for me at the time. But now I'm honestly focusing more on my YouTube channel. Interestingly enough, I had a call recently with somebody, and he shared a huge mistake that I was making. Is what I would do is I have about, whenever I release a podcast, which is twice a week, I send it out via an email to a list of real estate agents and salespeople. It's about 900 people. Okay, so that's the list that goes out. And what was happening is when people clicked on a link, it was bringing people to Libsyn. So Libsyn is a podcast host. I don't know which host. Yeah. So instead of the traffic going to my website, it was going to Libsyn. So we recently fixed that about 2 weeks ago. So now if you get that email, you click on it, it's going to bring you to my website. Then you click on my website. So now the traffic's going to my website. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with YouTube. So I never was driving traffic to YouTube or even my own website for that matter, which was a huge mistake on my part. And I just hadn't realized. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't something that I was focused on back at the time.
But isn't it crazy though? Like you did a YouTube video of you personally calling expired listings, like people that had their home on the market, failed to sell. It got crazy amount of views. And then you go and interview like Grant Cardone and Gary Vee and it gets like a couple hundred hits.
Yeah, man. It
makes no sense.
Well, it tells me that's what people know me for, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it's telling me is that's what people, and the same thing with my podcast. Like I have, besides Mel Robbins, the interviews that get the most downloads are typically like scripts, top real estate agents. I guess that's just my market, right? It's my
but the thing, but the interesting thing about that though, right, is like to get 200,000 plus views, that's going to be people that are not all in real estate.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like, the number of successful agents out there, the like practical accessible market is like pretty small out of the 1.4 million NAR members.
Absolutely.
And so to get 200,000 views, it means you got people outside of the industry watching the video. So it's like, why did that video get clicked on, but a video you did with Grant Cardone or Gary Vee did not?
Again, my guess is that because that's what people know me for. When I was selling 100 houses a year at Keller Williams, I was doing live prospecting calls and I ran boot camps. I ran for sale by owner expired boot camps for years. And that's what I taught people. So I think that's what people know me for, and the other thing too, is it's not like Gary, it'd be one thing if Gary Vee went and promoted my podcast somewhere. He didn't, he was just on the show, right? So now Gary has a massive audience. I'm guessing millions of people are following him. So now if he decided to take my podcast and post it somewhere and promote it, I'm sure the views would have been a lot higher.
Do you think are there any hacks
as a matter of fact, let me share this. So I can find the episode if you want, but what Gary Vee did was he took the content from the episode him and I did, and he repurposed it and turned it into an episode. And that's what he did. He promoted that episode himself. So I'm sure that version of the episode probably has hundreds of thousands of views, but unfortunately the traffic wasn't driven to me. It was driven back to him.
Have you found any hacks of like in terms of like getting other influencers to promote you? Have you found any hacks on how to do that?
Oh man, unfortunately I would say no, not yet. Certainly it's something I guess it depends on what you consider influencers, right? I mean, what do you consider an influencer?
I mean, somebody, I think anybody that's got like more than 50 to 100,000, subscribers or followers or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
if people like the interview and they're proud of it, they're gonna promote it, right?
Yeah.
And Mel Robbins was on my podcast, and the episode with Mel Robbins has gotten probably 10x more downloads than any other episode I've had. And I don't know if it's just because it's Mel Robbins or if I think Mel Robbins promoted it a bit in the beginning, which certainly helped a lot.
So David, you were previously at the largest privately held real estate brokerage in America called Keller Williams Realty. And you were what is called a team leader, which is somebody responsible for recruiting to the market center, recruiting agents. And I think you told me you recruited 170 people. And what time span was that?
The team I was on, we did that in about 12 months, a little less than 12 months. I was in a team leader role for about 18 months. So we brought in about 200 people.
Wow.
In 18 months.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah.
What did your team look like, and what are the secrets to recruiting that many people, salespeople? And these are 100% commission-based salespeople.
Yeah, man, it was just hitting the numbers, dude. I had a really good coach, and he would not let me miss the numbers. And if you know anything about KW, they do the 2-10-40. So it was.
Tell me 2-10-40. What is that?
2 appointments a day, 10 a month net. and in 40 appointments a month. So it was
two appointments, 10 and 40. So 2 appointments a day, you get 10 net, meaning you have 10 people like come work for the company.
Yeah. Well, 10 people, 10 net. So if you bring in 20, but 10 leaves, so you're 10 net, right? So, cause you have people, unfortunately, the attrition in real estate's about 30%. So I think one of the challenges was, it was like, almost like we're just cycling through agents. We have agents coming in one door, and unfortunately agents are going out the other door.
And that 30% churn, was that in the first like month, 2 months, 3 months? What did that look like? So how, how many,
I think I know your question.
How many people left the company, and in what time span?
I believe that is a statistic that is throughout real estate, the whole industry itself. It's about a 30% attrition rate. So meaning 1 out of 3 people will leave real estate.
Okay.
That's every company. That's not just Keller Williams.
So just out of curiosity, like at the company Keller Williams, when you were there, like say you recruited 200 people, like how long would those agents be with the company before they changed to and went go work for a competitor?
It depends on the agent. It really depends on the agent. I mean, it's the 80-20 rule, Chris, right? 80%, 20% are gonna succeed, and then the other 80 are not going to succeed at a high level, and they're going to, and then out of that 80%, 20% of them are going to leave. I don't know if I said that right, but I may not have.
Do you think there's kind of like a lifespan of an agent, or a life cycle, if you will, like how long somebody, on average stays at a brokerage? Like I'm sure the National Association of Realtors has some statistics on this, in terms of like how long on average an agent stays. I heard it's like 1.5 to 2 years on average that an agent is, flipping to a new company.
It sounds about right. I don't know the exact statistic, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
Interesting. So when you say you recruited 200 people, like 100% commission based, like what did your team look like to be able to do that?
So it was myself. I had an assistant team leader that worked with us. We also had a productivity coach as well that was involved in recruiting, and then we had a staff. The market center I was at was very leveraged with staff, so they had about 5 staff members that helped us with everything from onboarding to getting the contracts to people to sign. It was a system. They had a really good system. So
team lead, assistant team lead, productivity coach, and then support staff to help with implementation once you get people signed up.
Yeah, it was a system. Honestly, it was just like
So how long would each of you guys have to be on the phone a day to be setting 2 appointments? And was it 2 appointments per person, like the team lead, productivity coach, and assistant team lead?
I mean, for me, it was more based on production. So higher production, I would focus on. Middle production, it would be the assistant team lead. And then for new agents, which we brought in a lot of new agents too, it would be the productivity coach. So we would also hold career events where we'd have, 7-10 agents show up every month, and we give at the end of the event, they'd sign agreements to join the company.
How did you promote the career nights?
The office did it for us. I wasn't involved in that. I mean, I know the career events were more like new licensees or people that were interested in a career in real estate. So the office did a lot of those promotions. I think they had a list of the new licensees, and they did social media stuff. Are you interested in a career in real estate? You want to make $100,000 a year, right? That's the magic question. So, sometimes we'd have 30 people in the room.
Yeah, I think there's a lot people can extract from that. Number one, systems, leverage, and just building a framework out of understanding what the key metrics are to get to your end result. So you have very clear targets, or SMART goals, as they call them, right? SMART goals.
Yeah, I would say.
David, what's your take on what's going on in the U.S. right now in terms of we've got massive amount of government debt trying to help get people back up on their feet, PPP funds, stimulus checks. I think there's a lot of people really concerned about, the value of the dollar. They're, concerned, are we going into a deflationary market or into an inflationary market? What's the future going to hold? Are we like going to be like the next Rome and, America is going to collapse? Is the economy going to be an L? Is it going to be a U? Is it going to be a V? Where's your head at specific to the U.S. economy?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't, obviously it's just my opinion is all I have, because I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball, or none of us do, but I think it's like anything else. I think it's a cycle. Unfortunately, we're here, and we're gonna get through it. I think that's the bottom line. I think the real estate the real estate market is actually lags behind the economy. I think a lot of people don't understand that. So, a lot of people are all pumped up about, oh my God, I put 5 houses under contract last week, and I did this and I did that, not realizing that, what's happening now is really, you're going to start to really see that in real estate in probably the next 4 to 6 months or year from now is where you're really going to start to see that, how it's affecting the real estate market. So I think we need to be smart and start making adjustments, which is what we're doing. And just be honest with people. Like I said, I've had 2 virtual appointments where I've talked to people about the equity in their homes, and if they really want to protect that equity, and if selling is what they want to do, then they want to take action sooner than later. That's my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong, but you just said it. With everything happening, it seems like things are going to get worse before they get better. But the good news is they will get better.
So it sounds like overall you're pretty optimistic. What are you investing in? What are you personally buying, investing in, and doing from a wealth building perspective?
Yeah, great thing. People, man. I'm investing in people right now. That's why I partnered with the digital brokerage with EXP, and we want to bring people in and help them. There's a lot of people that have no idea what to do right now. I've been in the business 17 years, and in 2007 we transitioned. We started doing bank loans. We started working with investors and doing other things that, which is really when our business grew up. And I think there's a lot of agents that kind of need that guidance right now. So I'm doing that. And right now, I don't think right now is the time to invest in real estate. I think in the future, we're going to start looking at a lot of multifamilies and really investing in real estate. But my personal opinion is right now is not the time to start buying a lot of investment properties.
Are you investing any money in the stock market or cryptocurrency like Bitcoin?
No, man, I have money. I've lost a chunk of money in the stock market. I'm pretty conservative with that. I lost a chunk and then I pulled a lot of it out into cash. Then it came back a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with the stock market, man. It's not, I have a financial advisor that kind of guides me on all that stuff. Crypto, I had my little crypto run. I invested all this money in it's not Ethereum. There's a few different ones. There's one
Ether, Ripple,
Litecoin. Thank you, Ripple. Yeah. Yes, Ripple went from like a penny up to like $2 or something. Yep. And of course I bought it at like $1.10, and then it tanked down to like 70 cents again. I was like, I'm done. And it was like day trading. It was such a hassle doing. Like I just said, I'll never do that again. I was on there like 10 times a day watching it. Like, oh my God, where is it now? Where is it now? Should I buy? Should I sell? So it was too much for me, man.
Do you feel like cryptocurrencies are here to stay?
I don't know enough about it, Chris, to be honest with you. The other day I was on a call with somebody and he was talking about Internet 2.0 on blockchain. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool, but I need to learn more about that. Like, what does that actually mean?
The first piece of real estate sold using blockchain technology and tokenizing a real property record in Switzerland. And in the United Kingdom, their property records department, if you will, is called Her Majesty's Land Record. And they did a pilot using the Ethereum platform, and they were able to successfully tokenize real property records. And so you would get a title token,
That's awesome.
a string of digits that represented your real property ID. And then if you bought a ownership stake in it, you would get a security token, and it was all transparent on this platform. And so there's one called Block IMMO.ch. It's an investment platform, and you can see all this, and then you can go to it's etherscan.io to actually look at the transactions and see who owns each property. You won't see individual names, you just see like token numbers that represent the ownership stake. So it's kind of a lot of people think the US is so technologically advanced, but I think Europe is kicking our butt right now, on the innovation side specific to real estate. So are there any emerging technologies you're really interested in the sales world, or just generally speaking, any emerging tech that's interesting to you?
I think what's interesting to me is artificial intelligence I think behavioral intelligence is interesting to me, like using how artificial intelligence can understand behavior and make adjustments and create things like that, triggers and that type of technology is definitely interesting to me. Getting more into understanding behavior, but not me. So having a system that can understand behavior based on voice recognition and, mostly voice recognition. So I think that's a big technology that's up and coming. But
this is totally unrelated to what we just talked about. I just had kind of a light bulb moment. I think the secret for anybody trying to grow an audience or, a following, etc., the secret really is not so much to maybe interview that person, but more so to like coerce them to, promote you in their organic content in some way. That's the real secret.
Yeah. Well, the cool news is I have a lot of, I don't know whatever you want to call it. They reach out to me now, and they're asking me on a regular basis, they're promoting their guests to me. And one thing that they're using is, well, we have this audience, and if you bring so-and-so on your show, we'll promote it to that audience. So now I'm paying a lot more attention to, to the person's audience, and are they really going to promote the show, and are we going to get, downloads or listeners from that? The two audiences work together, where if somebody listens to it one time just because that guest was on the show, but really they're never going to listen to my podcast again, does that really help me? You know what I mean? Because ultimately we're looking for subscribers. So it's just a lot more to, think about. And that's a gift though, because in the past I used to have to, seek out all my guests. Now I get to kind of pick and choose who I want to bring on the show. And we're going after some other celebrity type guests is the goal.
Is there a agency out there that like helps people, book high profile guests?
I'm sure there are. I'm guessing they are. Yeah. I don't personally use one, but there's a lot of smaller agencies, like I said, that reach out to me with their guests, but.
Interesting. Well, David, this has been a great discussion. And I think anybody that's listening to this, that's thinking about like, how do you build an audience? Maybe you're a salesperson, business owner, entrepreneur, real estate agent, whatever, and you're trying to build an audience. I think they can take a lot of nuggets away from that experience you shared with us. When before we sign out, when is your book, the 2.0 version of your book, when is that going to be released?
Yeah, we're about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. We'll have it out, and we haven't even settled on the exact title yet. Could be 2.0, maybe tech enhanced. Well, we're looking at some different options, and yeah. And
where's the best place for somebody to get a copy of the book?
I would just go to my podcast, Path to Mastery. My website is davidihill.com is my website. You can get everything there. Everything's there. So if you want a copy of the book, you want to join our Facebook community, you want to listen to the podcast, davidihill.com is the best place.
What's your book cost, David?
The book is $19.99. We're going to think about, going forward. Will that be the price going forward? Well, I'm not 100% sure yet.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any special
you can go on right now on YouTube if you want. I'm not YouTube. Amazon. You can get a copy of the sales playbook right now. I believe it's selling for $19.99 or $19.97.
Got it.
It's a great book. It's an awesome book. It's just, again, I think there's just some things now that we want to we used to take it to the next level.
Cool. David, thanks so much for being on the podcast, CEO Secrets today. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for all those little golden nuggets.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, David. Have a great one.
All right. You too.